Now, Carla is someone who's well known in the game, and we all know who this brother is. He's a rapper, conscious rapper, who espouses a lot of pro-black rhetoric, and he always seems to be one of the first names to be invited to talk about racial issues in the media. But again, if you listen to his rhetoric, it's always about the black side of things. But if anyone knows anything about his background, you know that not only is he mixed, he was raised by actually his white mother, but he even admitted himself when he was younger that he was actually embarrassed that his mother was white, due to, in part, how he grew up and obviously some of the issues that he faced. But you would just think that as he became older, he'll have a bit more balanced viewpoint, particularly as he was raised in the household by his white mother. I believe his black father left at a young age, so I don't know the relationship between his father and him, but he was definitely raised by his mother. But you would think that as you've gotten older, I won't say you necessarily mellowed out, but you'd have a bit more balance to the argument. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be gung-ho and social activist in regards to all things and anything black, particularly if you follow his Twitter and his timeline and see exactly the sort of issues that he seems to be really involved in. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just, isn't that just quite an interesting situation? Now, if we go on to the next person, on the current image on screen, we have Afua Hirsch. Now, for those who don't know who she is, she's actually a well-known writer and a broadcaster, and she's very well known for gracing our screens for her talking points when it comes to, again, racism, white privilege, white supremacy, and all the other usual talking points that comes along with it. But again, when you trace her background, you realize the same thing. She's of mixed heritage, but based on her talking points, you would begin to suspect, similar to Akala, that she seems to have a little bit of a disdain for her other side of her background, which does make up who she is. So much so that it kind of drives her and even them to overcompensate for their black side as opposed to their white side. And it comes out in their stances and their talking points. And there are so many others which I didn't want to mention today, but those such as Alicia Dixon, particularly on the entertainment side, Ashley Banjo, and of course Lewis Hamilton, David Olusoga. All these people here have in common that they all seem to be mixed, but seem to be extremely pro-black when it comes to their issues. So my question is, why is this to be the case? Now, if I was to offer my opinion on this, and just to preface, it is my opinion, it seems as if a lot of these pro-black mixed race people, I'm going to be honest with you and say this, a lot of mixed people, just in general, seem to suffer from an identity crisis. Because I've heard many examples, particularly personally, particularly because of the heightened racial issues that have taken place this year, that a lot of them have been forced to kind of almost take up a side, which would only serve to alienate another side of the family, depending on their belief system, what they believe to be true or not true. But particularly during this time, a lot of situations have happened which has caused a lot of mixed people to have, well, if I follow this side, that means that side's going to be mad at me, and likewise the other way around. So it seems to cause a little bit of a alienation in regards to one half of their family, and that's one half of themselves, surely, is it not? And when it gets down to the reasons, who's responsible for this all, I'm even going to say this. I hold the black community responsible for all of this that's taking place right now. Yeah, I do. Because it is my belief and my contention that the pro-black mixed race people are the living embodiment of how black men and black women, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, see themselves when it comes to their own racial identity. Because black people, if you talk to them, listen to them, on screen, in person, you begin to realize that a lot of their being, a lot of who they are, is tied into their racial identity, which at the moment, and really to be fair, in general, is incredibly fragile, particularly when it comes to standard of beauty, particularly when it comes to what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, when it comes to their history. Everything about black folk is tied into their racial identity, which is very fragile and it can be hit at any stage and any time. Particularly this year, it is something which, for the most part, and even myself, I will admit, a lot of things seems to be tied into being black. And I'm not going to go into this part into too much detail because this will definitely open up another can of worms, and I may do another video on this. But when you look at the reasons why, particularly in the UK now, a lot of black people seem to disproportionately date, marry outside their own race in comparison to other races, you can only understand why the offspring of that union has the identity crisis that they now do have, and how it plays out in front of our very own eyes. Because again, as I said beforehand, black people seem to, their essence and being is tied into their racial identity. And with that, there's a lot of issues that comes with it. And with the whole interracial dating piece, again, I'm not going to go into the reasons why, but a lot of reasons why I've heard black men and black women say why they don't want to date each other. And a lot of it is not because of, oh, I only see love. It's not all because of that BS. But with all these talking points, what they espouse as to the reason why they do it, it makes me no wonder why, when it comes to the offspring, mixed race kids, why they espouse the views that they do, and why they have the identity crisis, which I believe that they have, and how it plays out in front of our very own eyes. And which is why you see a lot of mixed race, pro-black people coming out. However, a lot of them date white.